Well, welcome back to the kitchen and another old relic from the days when Philips made things nicely in Europe. This is a 4404 stereo reel-to-reel tape recorder, probably the basic one of the range. As you see, the amp only does volume, balance, tone and record. But if you look at the chassis on it, you'll see the cutouts for the other controls for the more upmarket models with their bass and treble and two different inputs for recording. Now, this one belongs to Vintage Sounds 14, who's down here for the week harassing us from Yorkshire, and has had to be repaired. Well, you can imagine what was wrong. If you know anything about these, you'll know that the belts in this old Philips equipment go to a sort of tarry, gooey state, as do any idlers that are in there. Record players, for some reason, don't seem to be affected by that, and they may have been made in a different factory. Certainly many were made in France, and I haven't seen a rotten idler on those yet. But these, oh yes, this was a cow. Now, he'd had it looked at by an old engineer who used to work on these things in his time, and it all sounded rather ominous because the old chap stated that all the linkages had gone. And so I asked James, well, are all the buttons still in place? And, oh yes, 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 of course they are. I said, well, the linkages must be there then, because otherwise the buttons wouldn't be there, because they're attached to the linkage. Of course they are. What it was, all the belts had turned to goo and everything in there was seized up. And we've had to do another little repair on this to the bias oscillator, because when trying to record, the machine proved to be deaf. And there's a tiny, tiny little wire had come away, only one of the pair, but because of the way they're wired up, it stopped the two working completely, just dead. So, without further ado, we'll give this thing a little blast. The only thing I couldn't do was the counter, because there's two nylon gears in there that have gone to a sort of, red Leicester cheese state, just fallen to bits. Two speeds, 7.5, which we're set to at the moment, and 3 3/4 inches per second, or 19 and 9.5 centimetres a second, if that floats your boat and your metric. We've also done up these rather nice Philips speakers to go with it, converting them to a three-way configuration from their former 4-inch one-way configuration. They were nice drivers inside, but unfortunately one of them had started to seize up and was scratching. So here we go. You wouldn't think, would you, that that amplifier is only making about 4 watts RMS per channel. But it has a nice warm sort of vintage sound that I know you people out there love that are watching this. On top, connections for external speakers, of course. Various different connections here. Radio, phono for a ceramic cartridge. Microphone left, and even a plug there for the famous stereo mic. As well as that, you can run it on different line voltages, 220, 110, 127 and 245 being marked there. For operation on 60 cycles a second, it's necessary to turn the motor pulley up the other way and use the smaller groove on it. Anyway, before I steal too much of his thunder, I shall hand this machine back. See you soon.